Start your day the joyful way. It's your weekday morning talk show inviting you to start your day with a triple shot of good vibes. And now here's your host, the queen of joy herself, Jessica Dugas. Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Happy hump day. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and you're watching Project Joy Live, your weekday morning talk show, giving you that triple shot of good vibes while also keeping it real, because that's what we do here. Listen, I mentioned yesterday my joy that court was back. Johnny Depp Amber Heard case. Not so much following the case itself, but I enjoy seeing the inner workings of the courtroom. Thrills me beyond belief. And so I found out yesterday, though, why. Remember that whole thing about how I middle school interviewed student of the month. What are you going to be when you grow up? I want to be a singer or a lawyer thing. Yeah. I found out why the lawyer thing didn't happen, because yesterday started what looks to be like it's going to be a long, drawn out, continual thing of recorded depositions. And I was bored to tears. I was bored to tears. And so this is why the lawyer thing didn't happen, because I just was not, it just, compared to the other stuff that had been going on, I was like, why does this even matter? So yesterday I learned that didn't bring me a whole lot of joy, but alas, here we are. So what else is bringing me joy today? We had a great episode of My Way last night with Joel Solomon, and he really shared a lot about moving into the world of coaching from being a financial analyst. And we've seen that a lot on the show, particularly My Way. For those, if you've never watched an episode of My Way, it is conversations and showcasing entrepreneurs who are doing business outside of the box, doing things differently. Someone said, you can't do that. And they said, watch me. And they did it. Or they're doing it now. And so throughout with that theme, we see a lot of that, started out in one line of work and now moving into something else, or just doing things that are very different. And so we had the opportunity to dive into that sort of viewing from an outside perspective, and later on that shift from one line of work to another, and that it is possible. And I love being able to showcase that, because I think a lot of people get really stuck in whatever they're doing because they think it's what they have to do, or other people say it's what they have to do. And so it's nice to continue to showcase that movement happening, and people getting unstuck and realizing their potential, or you're tapping into what that true passion is. And so it's really nice to get to showcase that. So we had a great episode last night. And thank you so much, Joel, for participating in that episode. What else is going on today? Let's see. We've got some national holidays going on. It is apparently International Museum Day. We have some museums here. We, of course, I have shared, I live very close to Fame Studios, which is, I am shocked, frankly. I'm ashamed. I've been here almost 2 years and have not yet gone into Fame Studios. Must do that. It is on my list. So you guys put a bug under me, okay? Just check in every couple of months and be like, Jessica, have you gone yet? Because somebody needs to hold me accountable here. So that is nearby. Let me know if you guys have any museums near you that you enjoy going to. I know that speaking of museums, I know that where our guest today, Scott Mason, lives, there's lots of museums in New York. I know that for a fact. So, and I'm gonna have to ask him about that when he comes on. By the way, he is back today. We're going to be talking about charisma, and it's going to be amazing. So stay tuned for that. Also, it is apparently no dirty dishes day. Now, you see, I can get on board with many a national holiday. Do you people understand with 8 people in the house that the concept of no dirty dish is not a thing? That it's not a possibility. It is not anything that would ever happen in this lifetime. Right along with no dirty laundry. It is not a thing. Though I will say this, we every now and then we have a family meeting, and by family meeting, we everyone comes and piles on our king size bed, and we say, I have my resting speech face on, as my son says that I have, and it's mostly mom talking. But we've been through a lot in the last year. A lot, and we're a month out actually today from when we all got COVID, and our whole world has just been crazy since. And we had this whole conversation of like, there's a lot of things that have come at us as a family, and that we've had to navigate through. And I had my speech face on as I shared that our home is a place that we need to be able to come and be calm and feel warm, and when the rest of the world is going crazy, that needs to be a space of peace. And so I said, what would really help me out here is if I got up in the morning and there wasn't such a mess in the kitchen. Can we please I'm only asking you for this one thing, please, for the love of God. And for the last few days, I am pleased to report that my oldest children must have felt the fear of God during that meeting. And it's so nice to get up, and kitchen is lovely in the morning. So big shout out to my children for that. It's a challenge. It's a challenge. Running a family of 8 is like herding cats often. It is like a business. It really is like managing a lot of people and different energies and different times and different personalities, and it's a lot. And I shared yesterday about the importance of giving myself credit for certain things, and I don't give myself enough credit for that, because it really is a lot at times. But it is sure nice when things fall into place and come together, and it's lovely. Apparently, it is also National Visit Your Relatives Day. This could be good or bad depending on your relatives, I guess, depending on your situation. But I will say this, we've got I'm gonna get on my pedestal for just a minute here. We have this thing called social media now, which makes it easier for us to stay in touch with people, yet oftentimes we're not really using it for that. We're not taking the opportunity to check in and see how people are doing. And I'm as guilty as the next person when it comes to that. I had a memory come across my feed the other day of when, or not the I say the other day, this is Alabama other day, probably a few weeks ago, where we had it was Easter, middle of the pandemic, and all of our family from in here, Arkansas, Connecticut, all over, we all got on Zoom and met up and everything. And I was, why haven't we done that since? Like, it just bothers me. And so I'm going to use this National Visit Your Relatives Day. Even though I cannot get in the car and go there today, I am going to visit virtually. And I want to remind us all that we have the ability to do that. Okay. Let's use social media for being social. What a concept. How about that? All right, let's check in with who's here this morning before we bring our guests on. Jason's here this morning, and I know I am sad that the Leafs lost as well. They are second for hockey, from what I understand, but we're sad. So I'm sorry about that, Jason. Jason, I have to give you a shout out. You have been our official, unofficial hockey correspondent since the Stanley Cup has been going on, and we appreciate you. Thank you so much, Jason, for that. Anne Marie's here this morning. Good morning, Anne Marie. It is good to see you today. Judith's here this morning. Judith's in Alabama, and I'm going to see Judith tomorrow. Yes, I am. I'm very excited. Literally no one comes through here. And so when I heard that, because Judith goes down to Florida and with her camper and then drives back up to Michigan. And so I'm like, I know that you come through here, ma'am. Nobody ever comes through Alabama, must come through here. So I'm really excited for that. Really excited. The Phosphate Museum in Mulberry, Florida is awesome. That is really, I've never heard of this museum. I must find out about this. I have been to the Jelly Belly Museum. Has anybody ever been to that? Really cool experience out in the, I don't remember if it's in Nevada or California. It's in that desert area over there, but it is really cool because so you can go in and it's the factory where they make the Jelly Belly jelly beans, and you can watch the whole thing happen. But they have huge murals on the wall, like the entire walls are covered, and they're made out of Jelly Belly jelly beans. It is the coolest thing. It's like a mosaic of candy everywhere. Hello. Oh yes, Anne Marie says yes, California. I knew I was out there somewhere. I couldn't tell you where I was. So that's a really cool museum too. Yes, big family. It's hard, right? Anne Marie, is challenging sometimes when we all live all over the place to check in with each other. Yes. Oh, and the dishes too. I think that's what you were talking about. The other day I had elves come clean out my fridge, do the dishes, and take out the trash. I almost fell over in shock. I love it. I love it. Yes. I need some elves sometimes. My kids really are really good about helping out. But it really does take, as I know, you know, Anne Marie, it takes a village to keep a house up with this many people. Craziness happening over here. Listen, Scott Mason's here and we are ready for it. We're here for it. We're very excited. So we're going to take a quick break and we are going to welcome back Scott to the show. Hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back.
Breakthroughs are about more than you might think. They're about discovering who you are, digging deep, reaching to the core of your soul. They're about healing yourself, understanding your beliefs, creating a ripple effect. And it's not just those initial moments that matter. It's about using them to bring more joy into our own lives and the lives of others. It's about having fun, letting loose, enjoying every moment life has to offer. It's about finding a safe space. It's about creating connection. Join us each and every day for exclusive programming, special events, and a community to call home, where we invite you to explore, change the way you look at and live your life, and go beyond the breakthrough. So we ask you, are you ready? We'll see you online at thebreakthroughshow.com.
Welcome back to Project Joy Live. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you of a couple things. Number one, you can join our Discord server for our community. You just go to bit.ly/Discord Breakthrough. We have fun events there. You can get to talk to other hosts, meet past guests, lots of fun things going on over there on Discord. So we encourage you to come over there to that platform because there are no distractions of social media, and I just appreciate that. You can also join join our text community, text the word breakthrough to 256-6857-092 in the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico for show notifications, insider info, and special offers. That's 256-685-7092. One of the most amazing people on the planet is back today. He is a speaker. He is, and he was an attorney. And I have to tell him about the thing when he comes on here. But he has been having us dive deep into the world of magnetizing and monetizing our professional freedom. And we are going to talk charisma today. He is the host of the Purpose Highway podcast, and we're thrilled to have him back. Let's go, Scott Mason. Welcome back, Scott.
It is good to be here, my friend. How are you?
I'm great, and I have to refrain from saying great, Scott.
You can say that with me. I won't tell anybody.
I love it. I was telling the people, so I shared with you that I have been watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard case on TV, and court is back in session this week. I am here for it. It was so good on Monday, but yesterday began what will seem to be a long drawn out, I don't know how long, of video depositions. Mm-hmm. And in the moment, I realized this is why I am not a lawyer, because it is the most boring thing I have ever sat through in my entire life.
So, I don't know if y'all have figured this out, but Scott Mason, your homeboy, ain't into boring. And I spent a lot, by the way, hello, Anne-Marie and Jason, how are y'all? And everybody else who's here. I spent so many years of my life bored and dreary. And in fact, the organizations that I worked for encouraged people to be boring, especially if you were a lawyer. Believe it or not, I used to talk in a long, dry monotone. I prided myself in being able to talk like that. I thought that was how you sounded official. And people loved it. Thankfully, you and I have both escaped that fate, at least forever, at least in the future, I mean.
I cannot picture you speaking in that way, Scott.
Oh my God. It was the opposite of charisma. And it is scary how we can adapt to circumstances that are toxic once we tell ourselves certain stories, once we let toxic myths that we've talked about before dominate our lives.
Yeah.
Gotta break free.
We have to. I am going to have to break free from, I need somebody to tip me off when we have another live witness in the courtroom, because I can't sit through a moment more. I can't do it. And I also, from and not understanding how things work, point of view, I don't understand how it's fair, because when you have a live witness in the courtroom, you have the chance to object and put all these fancy words out there that they say. You can't do that on a video, because obviously it's recorded. Nobody's answering you. So I don't understand how is that fair?
Well, these things are, to the United States' credit, governed by strict procedural rules that are reviewed in advance and that are moderated by, in most cases at least, judges that are concerned with ensuring that the record is sustainable upon appeal. And so they really bend over backwards to make sure that both sides are heard, that objections have a chance to be voiced, or if those objections are overruled, or if the objections aren't, or whatever, that the error, at least in theory, should be harmless. But that's one of the beauties. On the one hand, one of the horror shows about the United States legal process is that it is very slow, is that it can be very dull, it can be very technocratic. A lot of very specific SAT sort of words are thrown out all the time that no one understands. And then the appeals process can take forever. On the other hand, all of those things actually, in the bigger picture, as annoying as they are important, because it ensures that a slow justice process is one that can be very deliberative and that allows for people to be able to have opportunities to voice challenges to the fairness of the process, and then for oversight to look at it and make sure that there are corrective measures. So, and that is something in the moment, the hype that media has can get forgotten as to one of the secret values. For instance, let's say if it's a death penalty case, or even a case where someone has to pay a huge amount of money in civil damages, if it were to go too fast and the judges were to just make decisions and we didn't have appeals processes that went on forever, right? All sorts of miscarriages of injustice could occur. And that's not what we want at all, at least in this country.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's why I watched the case with a commentator as well, because otherwise I would just be sitting there like, what is the purpose of what we're even doing here? What is the reason for this? And she really does a good job at explaining, like, this is the process. This is why it has to happen. And it gives you an appreciation for, as frustrated as we might get with our laws and processes in this country, it gives you an appreciation for it, I feel like, at least, for what we have to go through sometimes. And Anne-Marie concurs. She said, I don't care for dreary conversation. That's why we're here. That's why we're here today. We have talked about myths. We have talked about a lot already in this series that we've been doing on magnetizing and monetizing our professional freedom. We've talked about building a new vision for our future. And today we are going to talk about charisma. I am excited. Where should we start?
We're going to start with a brief recap of where we've been at, because it all ultimately builds. In part one, we discussed the importance of looking at toxic myths that we are telling ourselves that might be holding us back. The 5 ones that are key, just to remind everyone, were the social myth, the tragic origin myth, the ritual myth, the underworld myth, and the doomsday myth. Once those are analyzed, we're in a position to be able to suss them out from more positive myths that we have in place. And then we can shut the door on those negative myths and begin to rebuild a new mythological foundation that has embedded within it a vision for what our future could be. From that vision, we can begin to then create and understand what our mission is in life. Now, we can have an incredible vision for tomorrow. We can have a powerful mission about what we want to do. But if we do not have charisma, no one is going to pay attention. It might simply be that your mission is to be the best file clerk in the Bronx office of an accounting firm. However, if you decide to make a career switch into that path, and that's how you find your professional freedom, even in something like that, if you're not able to convey why you want to do that, why that's your life mission with charisma, no one's paying attention. The more ambitious your goals are, the more you're dreaming for, the more freedom that you're seeking, the more that charisma becomes an imperative. And so that's where we're at. That's where we're starting from.
I love it. I love it. Yeah. I mean, I think we've laid such a good foundation for, some of these challenges that we face. And ultimately it comes back to the same thing that we always talk about on this show, which is recognizing these challenges and then choosing to move forward from there. So, and I love your example as well of accountant in the Bronx, because I think a lot of times we talk about some of these topics and people think, oh, that's not for me because I'm not an insert whatever here. These concepts are for everybody, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, you're pointing to a core value that I ask that any and everyone who is watching or listening to this bring inside their heart and live and think about when it comes to bringing out their own inner charisma, which is every human being matters. Every single one. All of us have a purpose, and we discussed that purpose and how to find that purpose last time. Every single person, if they truly matter, have a mission and a reason for being on this earth. And when that happens, it is an obligation to externalize that, to live it. And if that's the case, which I would argue it is, then we all have an obligation to build our charisma. Not only that, but I doubt there are any people in the world who actively say, I don't want opportunity. I want to be ignored. My dream is to have everyone else in the world get the good things in life. I just want what sucks. Almost no one says that. Well, how do you magnetize? How do you attract opportunity? Charisma. Who do you think people are more attracted to? The person that no one's paying attention to, or the one that's boring everyone to death? Or the person who's vibrant and full of life, no matter what that job is that they have? It's the person with charisma.
Yeah. I can see, thinking now, how important this is. One of the things that I have complained about from time to time is how, many of us, you and I included in this, are so committed to putting goodness out into the world, to sharing amazing concepts, encouraging people to see the other side of things, or explore their feelings on certain topics. And we really put a lot of energy and effort into that. Yet the things that get the most attention on social media are things like, bad things that happen, the people being shot, or dogs riding Roombas, and why? Because now I'm looking at this through this lens of, it's a more exciting thing. So we have to be, in our presentation of the goodness that we're trying to put out there, if we are not making an effort to be more charismatic, nobody's going to care. It's going to be dog on the Roomba time.
Absolutely. And that goes to something we can talk about as the show progresses that's important to understand. Now, not everyone is going to manifest their charisma the same way. I hear all the time, Scott, I am a 70-year-old woman who has a sort of shaky voice, and I'm 5'3", and I'm not physically, I'm physically small, and I cannot command a room or a space the way you, as a 6 foot tall, 200+ pound man, can, with a loud voice and a tendency towards dramatic gestures. Now, I think I'm understated, but many people disagree. And I think it's very important for us to understand you don't have to be Scott Mason to be charismatic. In fact, there could be dangers with being Scott Mason and charismatic, but you can manifest charisma in your own way. We've been talking about Greek myths all month. There is a specific Greek mythological figure that represents charisma if you're an introvert. It's probably helpful for us to understand what charisma is and isn't first, but that's well worth exploring if the conversation leads us that way.
Yes, I would love for us to backtrack for a moment, and let's talk about what charisma is and isn't, because I think there's a lot of people that have different ideas about it. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind when you said that this was going to be one of the topics for this series is that one of the churches I had gone to talked about how charisma is a horrible thing. It's just horrible, Scott. I'm going to digress, and let's talk about what it is and isn't.
And I respectfully disagree. That being said, it can and has been abused. Adolf Hitler rose to prominence almost exclusively based on a charismatic oratorical style. So it is important to understand, but we're talking about using it for the purposes of this show and the ongoing conversation we're having for a mission that is service-oriented and connected to purpose. I have a hard time believing that anyone's true purpose in life is to, for instance, slaughter millions of innocent people.
Agree.
So let's make that clear. If we want to talk about what charisma is and isn't, I can share with you the story of the most charismatic man who ever lived. That's a powerful story.
Wait a minute. It's not Scott Mason?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, and it's not even you, Jessica.
Man, I thought I was going to get my ego stroked for a minute. Go ahead, though.
I will happily stroke your ego anytime it deserves to be stroked. Hey, that's part of charisma.
It is. Let's hear about it, though. Let's hear about it.
So this was a person in Greek mythology named Orpheus. Orpheus was the son of an ordinary, no-name river god and the goddess of brilliance. That merger created someone who had a talent for singing. He used a lyre, which is a small harp-like instrument that was popular in ancient Greece, as his main instrument of choice, and he would sing along with it. And he sang early in his life songs of pure joy and fun. And it was exciting, and everyone noticed it. There was a group of heroes that went on a ship called the Argo, and so therefore they were called the Argonauts, to recover the mysterious golden fleece, which was the greatest prize in ancient Greek mythology. And Orpheus went along with them because they knew that oaring along the oceans to the ends of the earth to get the golden fleece would be boring. And Orpheus's songs and his singing kept people alert and awake. And he fell in love actually with one of the Argonauts during that trip and sang all sorts of love songs to that individual. And interestingly enough, although Greek mythology generally describes its gods and heroes in extreme detail, we know almost nothing about what Orpheus looked like. So I'm going to stop for a second and use this story to help us understand what charisma is and is not. First of all, the child of brilliance and an ordinary no-name river god represents the potential for charismatic brilliance within every single ordinary human being, including someone as ordinary as me, by the way. So we all have it within us. No one is listening to this or who is out there doesn't have that potential inside. Number two, songs of joy, expression, happiness, fun, stomping around the stage, hand gestures, loudness, all of those sorts of things that were what Orpheus's happy, fun songs, rah-rah cheerleading represented, they don't necessarily equate to charisma. Because you think about it, we're going to talk about more of Orpheus's story in a minute. And I guarantee you that story has inspired artists, musicians, filmmakers, writers for thousands of years. It's so powerful. No one remembers the part of the story regarding the Argonauts that I told you, because rah, rah, joy, fun, 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 fun is not by itself charisma. It's entertainment. What we see on social media may be entertaining and distracting, but it's not true charisma. Mm-hmm. And finally, the lack of physical description represents the lack of importance our own physicality, what we look like, has upon our charisma.
Wow. I mean, a lot of what the theme behind what I'm hearing is about the fact that charisma is accessible to everyone, that it's within us. It's more about tapping into it. Am I hearing that right?
Absolutely. With substance.
I love that. I love that. And it ties into what we were talking about on last Thursday with Kenneth Lord as well. And he was talking about leadership. And, you know, a lot of times people feel like they have to be in a certain line of work or whatever to be a leader. But he said everyone is a leader. It's about how you're choosing to show up. How do you want to show up for your family, for your work, for your community, for whatever, for yourself? What do you want to be?
Anytime you take an action that impacts others, you are, like it or not, being a leader.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Anne Marie's she's got that igniting going on down there in the chat.
To hear it. So shall we talk then about what charisma is and how Orpheus found it?
Yes.
Orpheus, after the trip with the Argonauts was over, continued to sing happy songs left and right. And eventually he met a beautiful woman who was very free-spirited named Eurydice. She loved the forest. She loved to dance. You could imagine her, the sort in a sort of wispy skirt and long hair and flowers on her around her crown, just out in some field somewhere enjoying nature. He loved Eurydice with all his heart, and they got married. And of course, at his wedding, everyone who was anyone came, and they wanted to hear what he would sing. And so he pulled out his lyre and he strummed and he strummed and he started singing songs of joy. And Eurydice started to dance. They were in a field that was encircled by a forest, and Eurydice was dancing away. Her hair was flying around. She was in ecstasy as she took off her shoes and was barefoot dancing around. And as the fervor of his music got greater and greater, and as her dancing got wilder and wilder, Eurydice stepped onto a pit of vipers. They all bit her, and she died on the spot. Jessica, can you imagine that happening at your wedding? Someone that you love, because of your music playing, by the way.
It's horrifying.
It's horrifying. And it goes as to the power of what's going to happen next. So Orpheus was devastated. But he realized, having gone through the process that we talked about last week, that he had special gifts, Herculean strengths. And Eurydice's death got him to understand he also had a mission. And so he packed up his lyre and decided to go on the most audacious journey that any human has ever been on. It was a journey to the land of Hades, the Lord of the Dead, to bring Eurydice back. He walked to the very end of the earth, past the Phosphate Museum, by the way, well beyond it, until he finally found a tunnel. And that tunnel took him beneath the ground, and he walked and walked and he walked. And finally, before him stood the huge iron gates of Hades. He pulled out his lyre. He thought intentionally about why he was there, what his mission was, why Eurydice needed to be back in this world. And then he opened up his power voice valve inside and started to sing. And the gates of Hades, which never opened for any mortal, found themselves cracking just enough for him to step through. And then he entered hell itself. There were souls everywhere. But in Greek mythology, the souls of the dead forgot who they were. They had no consciousness. They just wafted around. As he sang, though, memories of their own lives came up, and some of them, against all possibility, started to cry. There were demons that were tasked with torturing the damned for all eternity. And when they heard Orpheus start to sing, they dropped their whips, their pitchforks, just to wipe away their own tears. And even those that were suffering the tortures of Hades forgot their own pain and started to cry. Then Orpheus marched up to the throne of Hades himself, a stern, cold, pitiless individual, and his wife Persephone, who was an ice queen as well. And he stood before them with intention, with his message and his mission laser focused, with his willingness to be vulnerable and fearless about the outcome laid on the line, and started to sing. And before he knew it, Hades and Persephone were crying too. Orpheus, Hades said, your message has been heard. You can bring Eurydice back to the world, with one little condition. And Jessica, we'll talk about that condition in a little while because it's important for everyone to understand. But what we have within that story that I've just shared is everything you need to know about how to become charismatic.
I will tell you this much. If my music had led to someone dying, I don't know that I would ever play music again. I think I would be horrified by all of that. So it's the simple fact that he in that moment was like, now there's something I have to do. I think is huge because I can think of many, Greek god or not, a Greek god or human, that would scare people, would it not?
Our struggles are the authors of our purpose. We were each given our unique gifts for a reason. They may be what ultimately causes disaster in our lives, but they can also be recovered to do things that are extraordinary. And think about what the allegory of this myth is saying. That gift, which caused catastrophe, was the author of one of the most extraordinary events in all of ancient mythology.
It's incredible to think about. It really is. I never was interested in the myths in school, and now here we are, 42 years later, with Scott Mason at 7 in the morning, going down the rabbit hole of myth. What do you think are the most important things for us to take from Orpheus' story?
Yes. From at least this part of the story, it's important to understand the following. One, and you just touched on this, it's pivotal to grab onto our charismatic gemstones, the secret jewels that we each have inside that bring us charisma. And you do that through a charismatic self-assessment. So basically you assess your speaking style or your communication style. You spend the time to look at it and figure out what really works. A lot of times you'll hear you need to, and Toastmasters, I love them, but they're a little bit over the top about this, which is you need to focus on the irritating little things that you do wrong. I say quite the contrary. Focus on what you do that's right and amplify that. In Orpheus's case, it was playing that lyre and singing. He did it right. It was his charismatic gemstone. Number two, understand that charisma is activated by connection between the brain and the heart. There's a pipe that goes between the two, and when you turn a valve in your throat, it emerges as charisma. So his mind was the message, the mission, the intellectual objective that he had. His heart that he connected was the feeling that he had. That feeling was what got people to act. The message was what the act that he wanted and ultimately got was. And finally, number three, open your power voice valve relentlessly. The power voice valve is bringing humor if appropriate. In Orpheus's case, it was not appropriate, but in Orpheus's case, it was appropriate. The following: vulnerability, and then fearlessness as to the outcome. He had walked all the way down to Hades itself, not knowing what would happen when he tried to manifest his charisma, but he did it anyway, and that is charisma. And again, we'll find out what happens if that fearlessness wavers in a minute. But those are the three takeaways from this part of the Orpheus story.
Choose to tap into it. It's there. We just have to choose.
Yes.
Absolutely. Let's go on to the next part of the story. I'm on pins and needles here, Scott. I need to hear what happens.
There's one condition, Hades said. Just a little one. When you walk back to the world of the living, Orpheus, your wife Eurydice, will be right behind you. However, until you both have your feet on the ground of the mortal earth, you may not look back. And Orpheus heard him. and agreed with joy in his heart. And so he went back to that tunnel and he started to walk. And he walked up and he walked up and he walked up and he walked up. And it was harder than going down because he had to exert more energy to do that. And so he started to feel tired earlier. And it was as dark in that tunnel as it had been going down as well. There were cobwebs all over the place. It was scary. There was mist. But he wasn't 100% sure what that mist was. Was it the ghost of Eurydice or was it just moisture? He heard footsteps behind him, but were those Eurydice's feet or were they rodents or other little animals? He thought he heard breathing, but maybe that was just some sort of otherworldly air. He didn't know, but he believed in the power of what he had done, and so he kept walking and walking. And then finally he saw a pinpoint of light right at the end of the tunnel, and there were a few sun rays coming through, and he knew he was almost home. He could almost see Eurydice again, and he kept marching. He moved faster and faster. But as he got closer and closer to that pinpoint, and as it began to grow, as he began to see trees in the distance swaying in the wind, doubt creeped in his mind and fear. What if those footsteps weren't Eurydice? What if the mist wasn't a ghost? What if the breathing that I'm hearing is just my imagination? What if Hades lied? This was all just a scam. And as he felt the first bits of real mortal earth breeze on his face, Orpheus couldn't take it anymore. He couldn't stand it. He turned around. He looked back. And there Jessica and everybody else. There stood Eurydice. For one moment, long enough for a tear to slice down her face and for her to whisper goodbye as she was lost forever.
He got in his own way, did he not, Scott?
Yes. Once you have uncovered your charisma, my friends, do not ever doubt its power.
It's so good because I think there are so many things within us, experiences that we've been through, things that have been said to us since childhood. Some of those things we covered when we talked about myths and, and we feel on top of the world in a moment. We feel that connection to charisma, but it has been for me at times a challenge to not let those little things creep in anymore. Yes. And how much we can lose if we allow that to happen. Listen, Anne-Marie's passing the tissues down there in the comments.
Yeah.
It's
painful. A powerful story.
Yeah. I want to ask you about how we can maybe not slip into that place of questioning our charisma, but I want to take a quick break and we'll come back and do that right after the break and finish up our story and what things we need to take home. So we're going to visit our friends at the White Scholarship Foundation, and we're also going to hear the For Love poem in Vietnamese this morning, and we'll be right back after this.
Imagine a world where every child gets a great education. Educating all children is the only way to end poverty. This is what the White Scholarship Foundation is working to accomplish. Our 6 staff members, our mentors and coordinators, who are on the ground in Kenya, are totally engaged in every aspect of our students' lives, so we can give them every opportunity for success. In just a few short years, we have already awarded 141 scholarships. We send children to high school who would have never gone without our support. And then we help them go on to either university or vocational school. We have already scaled our holistic business model to 4 locations and are ready to scale it to many more. Today it's Kenya, but tomorrow it's more countries. Please contribute what you can today. You can make a one-time donation, a recurring donation, or choose to sponsor a child all on your own for all 4 years of high school for just $3,500. Go to our website, www.weisscholarshipfoundation.org.
Vì tình yêu, tôi vẫn sẽ bảo vệ tình yêu, dù cho tâm hồn đang tan vỡ, dù cho trái tim ngập tràn đau khổ. Tôi vẫn sẽ bảo vệ tình yêu, cho cả thế giới đang chịu nhiều thương tích, không chỉ vì mỗi quê hương ruột thịt, êm ả, bình yên, với những gì tốt đẹp nhất, mà vì cả vạn vật, từng phút, từng ngày. Tôi vẫn sẽ bảo vệ tình yêu, vì chúng ta vẫn cần ánh sáng, không chết chóc, không bạo tàn, không bom đạn. Tôi vẫn sẽ bảo vệ tình yêu để mang lại bình an cho con trẻ, để che chở cho những người bạn thân thương, để không ở đâu tồn tại ranh giới. Tôi vẫn sẽ bảo vệ tình yêu, dù cho tâm hồn đang tan vỡ, dù cho trái tim ngập tràn đau khổ.
Welcome back to Project Joy Live. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and that was We Shall Stand for Love by our friend Dorothy Auger, read beautifully in Vietnamese this morning. You can visit weshallstandforlove.world for more information. Speaking of love, what an incredible concept with our charisma story this morning. You have everybody crying out here in the audience. I love it. Also, Amanda, welcome. Good morning. It is good to see you today. And thank you for standing for love with us as well. Anne-Marie gave us a couple comments. I want to scroll back really quickly. First, in the beginning of the story, she said, I got chills. I've been so worried about the way I look to others. Blown away once again. I'm so glad that these series have been resonating with you, Anne-Marie. And it's challenging, right, Scott? That's one of the things that I think creeps in often for us is how we look to others, and that can hold us back from tapping into that charisma.
Yeah, that goes as to what we touched on actually earlier in the hour, which is the lack of description about Orpheus, as well as the connection between what charisma really is and, for instance, things like introversion or small physical stature, which people believe can hold them back. Now, I'll just briefly say there was a Greek Olympian goddess named Hestia, who was the most introverted of all of the gods. And she was very, very modest. She actually gave up her throne when a more charismatic god came and demanded to have a seat in Olympus. And she basically was like, here, take the throne. I'll just sit in a simple wooden chair with a plain pillow. And she wore a plain white headdress and basically a grayish sort of dress. And she was the goddess of the hearth. And she was not dramatic. She was not theatrical. But what she represented and what that action of giving up her throne represented was having self-assurance and self-confidence about what her mission and her purpose was when she communicated. Now, I'll just quickly say Hestia originally became known as Vesta when the Romans took over the Greek religion. And the cult of this introverted, quiet, female deity Vesta was powerful. She got more offerings than any god except Zeus. And not only that, but she became known as the protector of the entire Roman people. After Rome was Christianized, all the other gods just sort of faded away. With Vesta, people stuck with her and her mission. She had to be forcibly outlawed. That goes as to the charismatic power, the magnetization of an outcome that determination and self-assurance can have, even if you're not someone that would be stereotypically deemed charismatic. Because charisma, as we mentioned earlier, isn't just boisterousness. It's about sticking to a message with passion, but with connection to who and what you are in your heart.
I'm taking this, just speaking of heart, I'm taking this to heart this morning, because I think even in my mind, with all of the personal development that I've done with myself, I still have that idea that you have to, that creeps in from time to time. And also Anne Marie said she calls those her thought demons. They do creep in, especially when others bring them up. That thought that we have to be a certain thing or do a certain thing or be a certain way in order to be charismatic or to have people hear our message, and that's not necessarily true.
I think it's extremely astute that Anne Marie described these as thought demons, because pay attention to the details of the Orpheus story. It was demons that dropped their whips and started to cry when Orpheus let his heart connect with his mission and sing. There's symbology there. And that's exactly what it goes as to, the ability of our charisma when we fully tap into it to conquer our own internal demons.
I think Amanda was sharing too, that's the pressure of society. At the end of your story, when you were talking about how he was hearing the voices and feeling things and seeing things and all of that stuff, there's always going to be that stuff going on around us. So how would you tell people to keep that focus on their inner charisma, keep that focus on what their message is and what they're trying to do, and maybe share a little bit about your own experience of how you've been able to kind of keep that stuff at bay and keep going?
Yeah. As we mentioned actually at the top of the hour, I was an attorney for many years. I worked for large organizations, in particular the government, that put a premium on being bureaucratic and boring. And so I gave speeches and presentations all the time. But one of the things my colleagues would tell me that they loved about me was that I could just drone on and on for so long that people would be too bored to really demand that their question that I was asked be answered. Or I would speak in such technocratic legalese terms that people felt that they were getting an answer, but it was above their little head to be able to understand, which is not charisma. It's not communicating anything. And it is exactly the opposite of what true charisma, as illustrated by Orpheus, was. And I thought that that's all I had within me, because during all of those years, I wasn't connected to my own heart, and I didn't have in my mind any mission besides what I was there to do, what someone was telling me to do actually during the job every day. So in order to connect to my charisma, I had to myself go through the process that we've been talking about all month to find what my own true purpose was, connect that purpose to my values, build a positive mythological foundation, live a life and discover and create a pathway for my own future that ignited my charisma, that gave me a reason to live for. And when I had that, my mind, that intellect, was always focused on what the mission is. I screw up and make mistakes when speaking all the time. I forget things, I mispronounce words, all of that sort of stuff. I get haters. Make no mistake, I have gotten some vicious hatred because of a whole host of things about who I am and how I present in the world and where my journey has taken me. But I don't care. My charisma will not die, because my mission is first and foremost what I'm here about. Orpheus forgot his mission. I'm not going to. Even in the moments in which I'm feeling self-doubt, we all feel that way, folks. When someone tells you that you suck, or if they put out publicly that you're going to hell, or any of a whole host of other things, that you look unattractive, all of those sorts of things, I feel those emotions. But I have to internally have the self-discipline to reset my mind. Scott, you're here for a mission. This other stuff is no different than the mist and the pitter-patter that Orpheus heard. Remember that mission. Go. And then I'm driven.
The mic has dropped. The collection plate is being passed. We thank you, Scott, for your. It's so good. Yes, so good. I think we are all inspired this morning. Amanda's crying now. Everybody's crying. Happy charismatic tears. And she also says she loves the way that you talk and explain things. That it really helps her to resonate with the story.
Thank you so much. That's what these stories are for. People forget that. They think they're just stories that are out there. They think that they're entertainment. They're not. Yeah. They're so much more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Anne Marie said hate is one of the reasons she doesn't make YouTube videos anymore. Anne Marie, you've heard it here today. Focus on your mission.
By the way, I get hate. I've learned to love it. I recently did a podcast appearance in which I was trashed for my ethnicity, or for the fact that I was born out of an illegitimate relationship and therefore I'm biracial, right? Like that was the subject and one of the things I got trashed for. I got trashed for my sexual orientation and I got trashed about my message, and people were vicious. Apparently it was bad enough that the co-hosts are going to, or at least are considering writing a public blog statement rebutting some of these things. And they were concerned, as the good people they are, about how I would feel receiving all of this. They shared what they had heard. I loved it. Your mission ain't doing anything if you're not emotionally affecting people. And some of those emotional effects that you're going to bring through your charisma is going to be hate. But that's better than indifference.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And meanwhile, when I heard that story, I was like, taking off my earrings. Who do I have to see? Who do I have to go see?
Who's going outside to meet you, right?
Catch me outside. All right.
I'm glad I've got you in my corner.
That's what friends are for. I may be a little, maybe a small little, 5'1.5", but I pack a punch. Let me tell you when those earrings come off. Judgment is the job of a higher power. Ask those people if they're trying to take his place, because he don't like that either. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I have a bestie in my purse. Amanda said, watch out. Listen, you have you have an army behind you now.
I got my posse. I've done something in life.
Oh, I love it. You're amazing.
You are too, my dear.
Thank you. Let's remind everybody how they can find you, Scott Mason.
So follow me on LinkedIn, s.scottmason. Every day, or almost every day, when I'm not promoting being on this show, I am putting up a story from Greek mythology and directly connecting it to our business or professional lives. And people find it illuminating, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. You can also follow me for a similar thematic presentation on Instagram, s.scott_Mason. I love talking to people. I want to hear what you think about personal transformation, Greek mythology, and most of all, about the journey to professional freedom.
I love that. Yes. And if you want to easily find Scott, so we tag him in all of our Instagram posts as well. Just look for his picture at the Breakthrough Show Network, and you'll be able to click right on his name there. So you can go give it. Yes. See, followers already happening.
Thank you
so
much.
We love it. Thank you so much again, Scott. Do you know anybody that has a birthday today?
Not anyone that I'm sure you haven't thought of first.
Well, listen, in the celebrity world, one of the most, she's so funny to me. Maybe I'm alone. Tina Fey has a birthday today. I think she's hysterical. Very, very, very funny comedian and actress. Singer George Strait birthday is today. Pope John Paul II's birthday is today.
Wow.
Also Christian singer Francesca Battistelli's birthday is today. And my kids will be so proud of me. I don't know how to properly pronounce his last name, but his first name is Jens, and it's Bergenston, I think is his last name, but he is one of the creators of Minecraft. He has a birthday today.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
Over there in Sweden. Happy birthday to Jens. And then in the celebrities in my own life, and she was definitely a celebrity in my life. When I was on the PTO at Carver Middle School, Miss Rowena was a charismatic force to be reckoned with on the PTO. We love Miss Rowena, and she was on the PTO as a grandma. And Miss Rowena was fantastic. So happy birthday, Rowena Janigan. It was good to see your name pop up in the birthdays this morning. Let us get our birthday song on, Scott. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Happy birthday to
you.
Happy birthday to
you.
Happy birthday, dear Tina Fey, George Strait, Pope John Paul II, Jen Burdenstein, and Francesca Battistelli, and Rowena Janigan. Happy birthday to you. Yes.
Too bad Orpheus wasn't here for that.
I know. He
killed
could
it.
have played the lyre. He would have rocked out with us. Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Scott, for being here this morning. Thanks to all of you watching or listening wherever you are in the world today, and my replay queens. You know I love you so much. Thank you so much for coming back in the middle of the night when I am snoring. I love you so much. We will be back tomorrow with Kenneth Lord. And don't forget to watch tonight, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time for the Jacksons to dive deep into relationships with Divine DNA. Don't miss that tonight, only on the Breakthrough Show Network. We love that. And we can't wait to hear more from the Jacksons about relationships. 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm your host, Jessica Dugas, and I want to remind you to make joy a priority in your life today and every day. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
You've been tuned in to Project Joy Live with Jessica Dugas, your weekday morning talk show, inviting you to start your day with a triple shot of good vibes only on the Breakthrough Show Network. Binge all past episodes of Project Joy at projectjoypodcast.com. Until next time, help us spread the joy by sharing this episode, and we'll see you soon.